Hi everyone, welcome back to the Hormones in Harmony podcast. Today I'm talking all about AHCC, a supplement that you might not be aware of, but you should know about, and HPV with my guest Mimi Lindquist, who is nicknamed the Mushroom Queen. So Mimi, for those who don't know, is a culinary nutrition expert, AHCC educator, and the host of the Medicin Podcast, which focuses on expansion for body, mind, and relationships. Mimi teaches people every day via online courses, social media, and her podcast how to incorporate more medicinal mushrooms into their life in easy and delicious ways. She believes the dynamic intelligence of mushrooms belong in all of us, so she has committed herself to being a link from clinical research to the public to help others take radical ownership of their health. So welcome to the podcast, Mimi.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And I would love to know a little bit more about your health journey, or what got you interested in medicinal mushrooms and why you became the Mushroom Queen.
Yeah, it's a sort of a long story that started way back in 2016. So I will give you sort of the bullet point condensed version. So it started in really where it started was in 2016 after my divorce. And I had had some health issues kind of leading up to divorce, maybe, some skin issues. My period wasn't super regular, but nothing blaring yet. And after our divorce, sometimes you don't realize when you're in it how stressful and sort of traumatic it can be for your body, for your psyche, for your soul. And it was definitely that for me. And a lot of it was self-induced, I will say. It wasn't necessarily from my partner. It was coming from, internally. And over the course of the next year, after our divorce, I was working a very active job as a dental hygienist. You're, moving around, walking with patients, a lot of thinking. You got to be mentally sharp. You got to be on your toes. And then I was also, doing the typical kind of orthorexic route of working out, super high intensity, 8 days a week, lifting, cardio, high intensity stuff, then also my active job. And then as well, I was eating super, super clean, right? I was never like anorexic or not, starving myself or anything like that. But I was in this sort of phase where I was trying on everything I would learn about in different health podcasts, right? So you listen to Ben Greenfield Fitness and he talks about intermittent fasting, and you're like, I guess I need to start intermittent fasting. I guess I need to shorten my eating window down to 6 or 7 hours, right? Well, for women, obviously, I'm sure you know this, but that can be really taxing on the body. And so I did that for about a year. I was intermittent fasting, like just straight through. This is like taking what could be a healthy habit to the extreme, which is sort of the definition of orthorexia. And so in that, you can imagine what happened to my hormones. They just tanked. I had 0 estrogen, and I was 27 at the time. And my hair was falling out. My skin was blowing up in acne. I couldn't digest any food. I would literally like regurgitate my food back up because I had 0 stomach acid. I had a rash on half of my body that was completely unexplained for about 6 months. No doctor knew what it was, didn't know where it came from, tried all these different fungal creams and pills, nothing touched it. There was just a lot that my body was screaming at me, really. And, when you're getting external feedback from, oh my gosh, girl, you look so great. Look at those abs popping. Oh my gosh, you're so lean. You're so this, you're so that. You look great in a swimsuit. That can kind of mess with your mind. And even though you have these internal things, like my body was screaming at me. Like I said, when you have that external feedback, it can really be this like, oh, but what do I do? Who am I if I don't have this, admiration or this attention, right? And I finally got to the place where I was in the shower one day and like a full like clump of my hair fell out. And I just like fell to the floor, and I was just at my wit's end. I was a health coach at this time. I was helping women like lose weight. I could do that, but I couldn't figure out why my body felt like it was kind of betraying me. It was like kind of turning on me, and I didn't know why. And so I will never forget that moment in the shower. I was just like, I got to figure this out. So from that point, I really took a different approach towards my health. I started really trying to listen to my body instead of working out 2 times a day. I was like, okay, I need an extra hour of sleep. I'm going to sleep until 6 instead of 5 or whatever. And so I really started listening to my body. And once I started listening to my body and actually like giving my body what I thought it was asking for, being a little opening up the eating window and letting go of the weights for like 6 weeks and just doing walking and yoga, just being like kinder to my body, I really started to notice a difference. Things started to clear up. Now it wasn't overnight, and I wasn't like cleared after a week. It really took like a lot of trial and error on my part over the course of the next year. So in that year, I completely flip-flopped my life. I stepped away from dental hygiene. I broke up with my long distance boyfriend. I moved back home. I was living in Seattle at the time, and I moved back home to my hometown of Spokane, Washington, and moved back in with my parents at 28, 29 years old, which was like, it was kind of weird, but it was also like I knew that I needed it. So I had this like excitement, knowing that I was going into this really wanting to work on myself, my soul, and to heal not only my body and my skin, my digestion, my relationship with food and exercise, but also like really, if I'm being honest, my soul. And so I went into that year, went through the Academy of Culinary Nutrition, and I went through that year and things just started rapidly changing for me. I just noticed that I felt different from the inside out. And it really took me completely stepping away from my life, really, to focus on me, like here and here. And I really felt like I was getting to a better place, not only from a health standpoint, but also from a psychological standpoint, emotional, relational, spiritual, like everything. So I kind of like dived headfirst into kind of transformation, and it was very concentrated in about a 2 year time span. And in that frame of time, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit more, but I was really diving deep into the research on medicinal mushrooms, and I was incorporating them into my life. And I also was really going deep and starting to educate people on AHCC, which comes from shiitake mushrooms. And I was just diving into the research books and clinical papers. And I was just like, how have I never heard of this before? It is so wonderful, so powerful. How have I never heard of this before? And the rest is history there. Like that was the kind of the tipping point of me just like, people need to know about this. And that was in 2018, and I haven't stopped educating people on AHCC since.
Wow, what a story. We have a lot of similar things happen as well. I'm sure a lot of the listeners can relate because it's such a common trigger, that over-exercising, under-eating aspects. And same with me, I wasn't intentionally under-eating. I just was trying to eat healthy, or what I believed was healthy, like a salad or the low-calorie packs of snacks or whatever. And I have a bit of an obsessive personality. I don't know if you're the same, where if I'm getting physically fitter and I'm getting compliments, then what turns from 4 days a week at the gym is like back-to-back classes every single day. And yeah, it's perpetuated by the compliments, which I try to not compliment people anymore on their appearance, because I understand that just because you look healthy doesn't mean that internally or metabolically you are healthy.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots of crossover there with our journeys. Interesting to hear about the rash on one side of the body. Have you looked into like the energetic side of things? Because it depends on which side it's on, but sometimes like the left side of the body, any symptoms on there can represent the feminine side of the body, either like you're not in touch with the feminine, or
It was
you...
actually my lower half. So it was like, it kind of
Okay.
like started like at my right, like around my midsection, and was like down around my, mostly my stomach, and then like my thighs, and a little on my calves, but mostly concentrated to the midsection of my body. So that's what I meant by half.
Okay.
It wasn't on my face or arms or anything. It was so bizarre. And I still, to this day, I just relate it to my body was not digesting and assimilating nutrients properly. Maybe it was trying to get rid of toxins through my skin. I'm not really sure. I don't know if it had a fungal component. I tried all different types of fungal creams and things, and you know, I know now that that stuff doesn't necessarily isn't a long-term solution, but yeah,
That's usually, yeah, what skin issues, something your body's trying to push out through the skin, which is
yeah,
like your largest organ. So if your liver is congested, if your bowels are backed up, then it
it was
is going to
probably
push it
all of
out.
that.
Oh yeah, combination of
Yeah,
all.
yeah.
And I was wondering if you, again, looking back through your health journey, you feel like your career as a dental assistant or technician contributed potentially to some of the imbalances that you had, because I have read, and just from clients that I work with, it can be one of the most toxic careers or industries to work in. So have you looked into things like mercury exposure or anything like that?
Yeah, certainly there was some of that. I will absolutely say. So as a hygienist, I'm performing the cleanings, and so I'm not working directly with, you know, things like amalgam. I'm not assisting the doctor really. So I mostly have my own patients. But in that, you're still using certain chemicals. The chemicals that the dentist is using, you know, two operatories down, there those you know, aerosols, they travel, they don't stay in one place. And so I can almost guarantee that yes, that definitely had a it was a contributing factor to my maybe my stress buckets, right? My toxic load in my body that it was dealing with, where maybe if I was, you know, super holistic health oriented and I was doing all of the right things in my lifestyle, maybe my body could have handled that kind of stress of the mercury aerosols or the different chemicals or toxins that were in the air that I was breathing in every day. Maybe it could have dealt with it better, but combined with everything that I was doing and all the stress I was putting on my body, like willingly, I don't think my body could handle it. And I got to that tipping point. So I think it very much had um, a, a direct effect, kind of in the overflow of what my issues were.
I think people forget these things because there was that for you, the trigger of the divorce, the stress, and the exercise, dieting side of things. But then everyone forgets what happened before that and what led to that moment. That's probably the straw that broke the camel's back, or when the toxic bucket starts to overflow. But they forget the dozens of antibiotics that they've been on, the diet that they grew up on, the bullying that they experienced, or the trauma they had. And you still need to work on those things as well. And yeah, obviously the triggering event is important, but you also need to still look back further into the health history as well. But
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I believe that things like messages are sent our way, and certain supplements you hear about. I always say, if you hear about something at least 3 times, then start to pay attention to it. For me, last year or maybe the year before, I started to hear a lot about mold exposure after never really learning about the dangers. So then I looked into it further, and it ended up being like a huge root cause factor for me. Same with Lyme disease. I was just hearing it all over the place, popping up on social media or blog posts or webinar invites that I was getting access to. And with your situation with the medicinal mushrooms, do you remember the first time you heard about AHCC? Because even me as a nutritionist and practitioner, other than you, I didn't hear anyone else speak about it, and it wasn't in like the supplement recommendations and websites that I commonly use.
Yeah, and so yes, to answer your question, I do remember the first time I heard about it, and it was actually in my dental office. So it was the other hygienist patient, but this hygienist was telling me about one of her patients that was diagnosed with HPV, human papillomavirus, later in life, in her like 50s, I think. And her naturopath recommended this medicinal mushroom. I'm doing air quotes for those who aren't watching. Medicinal mushroom called AHCC. And I was like, at that time, I had been drinking like Four Stigmatic, kind of like very, very basic on the knowledge of medicinal mushrooms. And I was like, oh, you know, a mushroom, is it chaga? Is it reishi? Is it lion's mane? Cordyceps? Like those were the only four that I knew. And I was like, AHCC. I was like, I don't think that's a mushroom. And I got this little like kind of like ego, like, you know, question, like, I've not heard of that. And so then I go and look it up. And, you know, first I start on Google and it takes me to Amazon, and I see some of the reviews that people, you know, just glowing reviews of their experience with it. And then I was like, okay. So I keep digging, and I come to the AHCC Research Association. And I was like, whoa, it has its own research association. Like, for those who don't know, maybe for a medicinal, not even a medicinal mushroom supplement, but just a functional medicine supplement in general, for it to have even one clinical study, like in vivo clinical trial, you know, double blind, placebo controlled, the gold standard of research, right? For it to even have one is incredible. That's remarkable. And at this time, when I looked back in 2017 or 2016, it had over 20 in vivo clinical trials. And I was like, it could be like super legit, and I need to dig further. So that's what kind of started my journey on really educating myself on how powerful this supplement, this food, really, it's registered as a functional food, how powerful it is for us. So that was where I first heard about it.
Why is it that we're not hearing about this? Why is it not like all over the newspapers and the media? Is it kind of similar to other things with the functional medicine world? It just gets suppressed and shut down because there's not a lot of pharmaceutical industries and things like that who can profit?
Yeah, I mean, it's not a prescription medication. It's a functional food. And I have a few different theories on this. Yes, I think part of it is what you just described. You know, companies don't want to mass produce uh, something that can be bought for, you know, $60 online or $80 online. They want to generate, it's all about the bottom line. And healthy people don't make money for these big corporations. I mean, we're seeing that played out all over the globe right now, this push for pharmaceuticals. And there's no talk of anything else really. So if you're giving something that is going to help people get healthier, you're essentially making yourself, these companies are scratching out their purpose for existence, right?
Yeah, they don't have any
So I think,
repeat customers. If they get someone healthy, then they've lost a
right.
customer for life potentially.
Right. And I know that there is some controversy there, but I fully wholeheartedly, I mean, talk to any doctor who has kind of gone into the holistic naturopathic route, integrative medicine route, and they will tell you the same thing. They've been in both, and they have seen both worlds, behind the veil of both. So I think that there is some of that definitely. And then I also think, you know, with the name like AHCC, active hexose correlated compound, that's really hard.
I think we'll refer to it as
So
AHCC for the rest of the podcast if you're okay with that.
right. And so no, that's totally fine. Yeah, but I get all sorts of like, hey, I want to know more about your AHCAHBVC. Like, I get the wildest combinations of letters thrown at me, and I don't blame people. It is hard to remember. So Deborah on the street, is she going to remember if she hears AHCC or active hexose correlated compound? Probably not. Is she going to even know what that means if she sees it at Whole Foods or at GNC or wherever she sees it on the shelf? Maybe not. In our world, it's all about sexy marketing and buzzwords and keto on the label or paleo or vegan or these different badges, right? And that's kind of how people decide what's right for them. Is the name sexy? Does it have good marketing? Does the bottle look legit? Like, it's less about the education of the product, which is why I've kind of stepped into this role. There's no one else really that I've seen on Instagram or social media educating about AHCC, because there are hurdles to educating people on this, but I've kind of embraced them and just taken them on as like, yep, this is going to be part of my journey. And I'm willing to jump over these hurdles because I've seen such wild, incredible results from people using this and incorporating it in their life, including my own.
I definitely want to hear about all the benefits and everything, but I think we should start with the basics. What exactly is AHCC? You said it's maybe an extract or a compound from shiitake mushroom. So yeah, what is it and what are some of the benefits?
Yeah, so it comes from shiitake mushrooms. And so I say that it's not a mushroom in and of itself. And to really go deeper into this, we need to understand a little bit of the anatomy of the mushroom or the fungal organism, right? So there's over 20,000 different types of mushrooms. That is the fruiting body. When we say mushroom, we're talking about the little umbrella shaped structure that pops up through the grass or wherever in the forest. That's the fruiting body. And a lot of medicinal mushroom products are made from the fruiting body. And those are great. They have their own set of benefits. Below the ground is called the mycelium, the mycelia. And this is kind of like the root-like structure. It's the network of intelligence. It's kind of like the internet of the forest, or really the earth. When you step outside, every square foot of earth that you step on has over 300 miles of these, what's called mycelium. These are one cell thick structures. They're like hairs, and they grow in all three dimensions. And what they do is they basically send and receive nutrients and intelligence to plants, to obviously the fungal structure, to the mushroom that's popping up, the fruiting body, but also to trees and flowers and plants. They really are this hub, I would say, of intelligence in nature. So we're packing that all in. So it's more than just roots. It's really like the neural network and the immune system of the fungal organism kind of combined into one. So it's the most intelligent part of the fungal organism. So these Japanese researchers in the late 80s understood this, and they wanted to study it. So they basically patented this process of culturing the mycelia of the shiitake mushroom. Shiitake mushrooms have been used for thousands and thousands of years in traditional Chinese medicine, for a host of different benefits for the body. So these Japanese researchers really kind of honed in on that intelligence of the mycelium of shiitake, and they culture it now. It comes from one source in Japan, so they have a patent on the procedure of the culturing process. And so then they've encapsulated it, and they've made it available to, the public. But really their main area of working has been in, medical hospitals, teaching organizations, and clinical research. So it has over 34 years now. It started in 1989, of research, clinical research behind it. And it is the most clinically researched functional food in the world. So although it's not mainstream to you and I, well, to me, now you, but to, I would say, the average person on the street, it's been used widely in all over the world in over 1,000 different cancer clinics, for everything from skin disorders to stage 4 cancer to HPV to Lyme disease to epilepsy. And we can get into why that is, but the way that it works in the body is it's really supportive of the entire physiology. So that's why it works for so many different conditions and diseases in the body.
So would you say that it has pretty much all the regular benefits of medicinal mushrooms like shiitake, but just like elevated? It's like the adaptogenic properties and the immune supportive and anti-inflammatory, all of that.
With AHCC, yes, there's 3 main buckets of benefits that I discuss. There's, a laundry list of benefits, but the 3 main that I want people to come away with is immune intelligence. So AHCC, like other medicinal mushrooms, have this ability to regulate or modulate the immune system. So that means that when you hear someone say like, oh, medicinal mushrooms boost the immune system, it's like, well, that's not quite true. They're adding more intelligence to your immune system so that your body can do what it's supposed to in regulating. So someone with an autoimmune disorder like rheumatoid arthritis, they don't need a boost in their immune system. Their immune system, for whatever reason, is kind of on overdrive. It's overactive, right? So we actually need it to be kind of calmed down a bit. And then in the case of someone with like HPV or cancer, they do need their immune system to kind of boost and to increase and to amp up, right? So it has this ability to go into the body and assess what you need specifically for your body's imbalances. So that's the first, is immune intelligence. The second is it helps lower systemic inflammation in the body by directly lowering C-reactive protein, or CRP. So if someone goes to their doctor and gets a full blood panel, the doctor is going to look at this blood marker, CRP, to kind of get an overall picture of what level is your total inflammation in your body at. And inflammation can be a good thing, acute inflammation. If you sprain your ankle, you want that inflammation. But kind of this low level, steady, chronic inflammation that comes from our air, our water supply, glyphosate, toxins, stress, all of that, we don't need that chronic stress and inflammation in the body, right? We don't need any more stress. So it helps regulate and lower those levels of CRP. The third major benefit is it helps regulate stress hormones in the body, like cortisol. So if somebody's just go, go, go all the time and they're really out of balance, they're not managing their lifestyle very well, they likely will have kind of out of balance cortisol, or just kind of chronically high cortisol. Or maybe it spikes at night and it dips when it should be, raised. So AHCC has the ability to kind of regulate stress hormones like cortisol in the body. So you've got immune intelligence, lowering inflammation, and regulating stress hormones. And I can't think of one, condition or disease in the body that isn't related to one or all of those things: in immune system, inflammation, and stress.
Exactly. They're the drivers of all disease, whatever symptom you have. Is there anyone, is it safe to say that is there really any symptom that it doesn't help, or is there anyone who shouldn't take it? Any conditions where it's contraindicated?
Yeah, I'll start with the contraindications. So I would say I get a lot of questions around pregnancy, nursing, breastfeeding, things like that. And this is always up to, I can't give direct medical advice. You got to talk to your doctor. And ultimately, it's up to the mom. It's up to how comfortable she is. Does she know about medicinal mushrooms and how they work in the body? What is she dealing with? Is she trying to clear HPV before she has a baby? Like, there's so many questions that you need to ask. So I won't say it's contraindicated, but of course there haven't been studies on pregnant women. That's kind of considered unethical at this point with certain medications. So definitely talk to your doctor. But I will say that many women have used AHCC while trying to conceive, while pregnant, and while nursing, my sisters included, and everyone's been healthy and beautiful and wonderful. And I can also say that if or when I ever get pregnant, I currently take about 1.5 grams a day. I likely won't change that at all unless I'm tuning into my body and my body tells me, like, no, you don't need it right now. But so I can say those things. I can't say yes, you should, or no, you shouldn't. The only other contraindication is if a lot of people take it who have a cancer diagnosis, and they're always talk to your doctor, always, keep your doctor apprised of any new functional foods that you're bringing in. Don't be surprised if they've never heard of AHCC. Just because they haven't heard of it, that doesn't negate the 30 plus years of clinical research behind it. So what I recommend to people is, if you are interested in taking it for whatever condition that you have and you want to talk to your doctor about it, go to ahccresearch.com, or I think it's actually ahcc.net. Go there, print off some of the clinical research, and physically bring it to your doctor. So they can't just write it off as like, oh, I never heard of it, there's no value in it, right? Because some doctors are kind of positioning themselves that way. Hopefully people have a doctor where they're like, oh my gosh, that sounds really interesting, let me look that up. I've found the majority of patients or people who come to me don't have that experience with their doctor. So I always say, print it out, bring it to your doctor. So the contraindication there would be certain medications. It's not going to hurt you, but it could lower the effectiveness. I think Zofran, and there's another chemotherapy drug that it could lower the effectiveness of it. So just being in talks with your doctor, and if people have direct questions, they can always email me.
Absolutely. And in terms of success stories, I'm sure you get messages all the time with you having, am I right, you have your own product of AHCC?
Yeah, I do. It's called Immune Intel, AHCC. You can probably guess why I chose Immune Intel, because ultimately we're adding intelligence to the body's immune system, which we're finding out over the last 2 years that that's critically important year round, not just during a certain stint of flu season or whatever. So yeah, Immune Intel AHCC is my private label that I provide for people. And success stories. I could fill a whole hour with them probably, but aside from the clinical research, there's a lot of success stories. I actually have my book here. It's called the Medical Breakthrough. Have you seen this book?
No.
Okay,
No, and I was going
the
to ask you
medical.
later in the episode, do you have a book recommendation? So that one seems perfect.
Yeah, it's the Medical Breakthrough in Natural Immunotherapy. If anyone is interested, I mean, it's very small, but it is packed full of studies, research, the history, the safety, the efficacy, all of that. If you're genuinely interested in it, pick up this book on Amazon. It's like $10, and you can also, show people if you have like, oh my gosh, my dad or my uncle just got diagnosed with cancer. Um, most of the research has been around cancer, so there's incredible stories. I'm talking like stage 4, horrible diagnosis, horrible prognosis, and months to live, and then some angel introduces them to AHCC. They get on a high dose and they go back to the doctor months later, and the doctor's like, we can't find your cancer. So there are stories like that, pancreatic cancer, brain tumors, stomach cancer, ovarian cancer, breast cancer, all different types of cancers. And then as far as my own interaction with people, telling me their stories, I recently, let's see, this was, I guess, last year, a woman had bought AHCC for her dad, who I think was in his 60s, who was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer. And it really wasn't a good prognosis. They started him on some hormone treatments. I think he got like a shot once every other month or something. And then the only other thing that he was on was AHCC. And after, I want to say 6 or 7 months, she texted me. I had given her my number because I wanted her to have access to me if she had questions. She texted me and just said, "Hey, Mimi, I just wanted to let you know that today we're celebrating because my dad had his last scan, this week, and the doctor said he's in remission of stage 4 prostate cancer." And that, I just like lost it. I was so overjoyed. Like, those stories are just like rocket fuel to my soul of staying with this and staying with the education and providing it for people, and working around the supply chain issues in this crazy world that we live in now. Like, I can't not talk about this after I've heard from people. And those are very kind of dramatic stories, but there's also everything from, skin issues like psoriasis and eczema, hidradenitis suppurativa. I don't know if you know what that is. I didn't know about it until someone messaged me and said, "Hey, will it work for HS? It's hidradenitis suppurativa." And I had to Google it. I was like, I don't even know what that is. And I said, maybe, I don't know. Try it. It's so safe. It's literally, comes from mushrooms. Try it and let me know. Come back to me and let me know so I can tell other people who may come to me in the future. And if no one knows what hidradenitis suppurativa is, I'm going to say HS. They don't know what HS is. It's this horrible skin disorder where you get these boils and they fill with pus and they sort of like explode on your body. And this woman had them kind of on her thighs and her like nether regions, and it was really impacting her life to the point where she didn't even want to be intimate with her husband, and it was really, really just kind of like ruining her life, to use her words. And she started using AHCC, and after a month she said, like, this is life changing. Like, I have seen so much progress in just a month of using this. Also, people will start taking it for maybe HPV or Lyme or an autoimmune disorder, and they come back to me and they'll say, like, yeah, it's helping this, but also, holy crap, my skin is the clearest it's ever been, or my hormones are balanced, or oh my gosh, I got my period back, or holy crap, I've been trying to get pregnant for 2 years and I've been on this for a month and I'm pregnant now. So I can't claim any of those things that it will work 100% of the time for what I just laid out, but it's because it's helping your body get into balance. And when the body is balanced from head to toe, or even just more balanced, it feels safer. It feels safe to heal. Your body does the healing. AHCC does not do the healing. AHCC helps your body get into balance so your body can do what it's supposed to do and heal, or get pregnant, or clear your skin, right? So when you get the body into balance and when you're supporting the entire physiology, the body knows what to do. It's just we have so many things coming at us from every angle: food, water, air, stress, all of that, that it's sometimes hard to get into that balanced state. And sometimes we do need help from supplements, and that's what AHCC does.
No, I agree. The body wants to heal. It's constantly like these symptoms that we experience are just your body's messages, and it's trying to get back into balance the whole time. So there's obviously something getting in the way, or it doesn't have enough of a certain thing. And conditions like cancer, it's often due to either a toxicity or a deficiency of some kind, and that chronic inflammation that we were talking about before. So even though those stories are really shocking and amazing, I'm honestly not surprised. And yeah, I totally believe that the HCC has been a huge driver of those improvements. In terms of the sourcing of AHCC, obviously your product is what you recommend, but because you said that it's all coming from the same place, was it in Japan that you said?
Yes.
Does it really matter
Yep.
which product or brand name that we go for? Can we get something off Amazon, or are the differences in terms of like the encapsulation or anything like that we need to be aware of with supplements?
Yeah, you want to really you want to be careful with the sourcing, because there are some companies who will sprinkle AHCC, maybe 50 milligrams, into their blend, right? It's an immune blend or an immune system
Complex.
blend or whatever. Yeah, a complex. And they're putting a sprinkle so then they can put it on the label that it has AHCC in it, but it's not enough to receive the benefits. 50 milligrams is probably not going to do anything for you. You need, the minimum dose. Minimum is a gram. And so that's 1,000 milligrams, right? So you really do want to be careful with the sourcing. Don't just type in AHCC and pick the first one. Of course, I know my label is 100% AHCC, and the capsules are 750 milligrams. So with 2 capsules, you're getting a really good low maintenance kind of dose of 1.5 grams. That's what I take daily. There is a brand that I can vouch for called Quality of Life, and that is on Amazon. That's the only other brand that I would really recommend directly. Now, I do have other people, maybe they live in Australia or in the UK or wherever where I don't necessarily ship to. They'll send me pictures on Instagram like, hey, I found this brand. Does it look okay? And I will just honestly tell them like, it looks kind of sketchy, or yeah, it looks okay. So another thing you can look for is the trademark. So if they're using AHCC from the trusted source, it should have a little R with a circle around it. That means that they have been granted permission to use the patented AHCC. Now the dosage is different. So you want to be aware of the dose and how much AHCC they say they're putting into each capsule, because that's very, very important. But if it has that R registered trademark, then it is coming from the same place in Sapporo, Japan, which I actually had the pleasure of visiting in 2019, and got to see the whole operation and meet the founders and the people and everything. And it was like a red carpet event for me. It was so wonderful. But yeah, that's around kind of the sourcing and dosing that you would want to be careful about.
And can you think of any brands off the top of your head for those in the UK, for my UK listeners? Or
well, if they can receive Amazon, if you can receive Amazon packages, then you should be able to get that Quality of Life brand. But I don't know brands off the top of my head.
that's okay. Are you expanding
but
your shipping services in the future? Is that something that you're working on down the line?
yeah, definitely. We do want to get to the point where we ship to the UK and to Australia, because I know there are people who are needing it and looking for it. Right now, we ship just to North America, because we've been kind of a smaller operation. But as we grow and as we continue to really like this last year with the pandemic and everything has been really a struggle with the supply chain, with more people understanding how important immune health is. The demand has skyrocketed, and really the source in Japan, they've had to expand, a lot to accommodate for that increased demand. Then factories are shut down, labs are shut down. There's a shortage on, white bottles like this. So there's so many things that go into producing, a product or a supplement that I think a lot of people, consumers, don't understand that there's a lot of steps. And so we're, for us at the Medicin, we're working really, really hard with trying to get more AHCC in our door all the time. So if somebody does come to our website and it says out of stock, we do have a wait list, and I would highly recommend getting on the wait list, and then we let you know as soon as it's back in stock via email or via text. I have a text line, and then that way you know immediately when it's back in stock, because it does go fast because there's people that are, waiting for it. So I would definitely recommend getting on the wait list, and then you'll be the first to be notified when it's back in stock.
Yeah, even after listening to this, I'm sure everyone's dying to try it, but please be patient and get on the waiting list. But it'll be worth the wait, hopefully, and they see some results. But can you give us any more information on dosing? So you mentioned like a very basic dose, like a starting dose, but in some more complex cases like the Lyme disease, what levels would you go up to, and for how long? Is it safe to take long term?
Yes. Yeah, I've been taking it every day for 3+ years. My partner as well. Dosing. So if the person is just healthy and they want to just educate their immune system, give their immune system that education, that intelligence, then I would say 2 capsules, which would be around 1.5 grams, is kind of the low maintenance, just everyday dose. For someone who has, say, HPV, the clinical research has shown that the most effective dose has been 3 grams a day. So that's 4 capsules, 4 of my capsules. So 2 in the morning and 2 in the evening. This is not per my recommendation. This is based off of clinical research where they took individuals, women who had high risk HPV and it was persistent, meaning it lasted longer than 2 years. They had these individuals, I think 50 were in the study, and over the course of 6 months, taking 3 grams a day for HPV, over 64% of them, it was cleared after 6 months of AHCC use. So that's huge. And that's not to say that, the other women in the study didn't get it cleared. It might have just taken 7 months or 8 months or, so everyone's different. There's not like a specific window, because it also matters. What are you eating? How are you, taking care of your mind? What are your relationships like? Do you have a connection with, something greater than yourself? There's all these things that affect our health. That AHCC is great, but it's only one piece of the puzzle. So also keeping that in mind, that if somebody starts taking AHCC and after a month for whatever condition, and they're like, oh, I'm not seeing results, it's a good time to reflect back on, what am I eating? Am I getting canola and vegetable oil and everything? Am I going through the, fast food drive-through 5 times a week? Am I in a, chronic stress state? Does my body feel safe to heal? Is really a question that we need to be asking ourselves. So AHCC is a great part of the puzzle, but it's only one piece of the puzzle. So then moving past something like autoimmune disorders and HPV, 3 grams is about it's called the therapeutic dose. So that's a great place to start if you're, for you, like if you started taking AHCC, I would recommend to you, if you wanted to start slow, you could start with 1.5 grams and see how your body likes it, and, titrate up a little bit. A lot of people just start with 3 grams and they're fine. So that's what I would say. That's what I would recommend for you. There was a study with Lyme patients, and after I think 2 months of taking 3 grams, 100% of the participants, their symptoms were partially or completely ameliorated. So that's huge for people who have
Absolutely,
Lyme. They know
especially
how
with
that
that
feels.
type of condition where there's not really any hope in the conventional field, really, and sometimes chronic Lyme disease isn't even recognized. So to have something even make a slight shift is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I've talked to so many people with Lyme. Christina Rice, where we were talking about her before you pushed record. She's one of my good friends. And she's a bit of a skeptic because she's kind of one of those people that's like, I'll try anything and everything, but I'm not going to, promote it until I know that it works for me. And so she got to a point where she was like, this is life changing. This has literally changed my life. And she didn't realize it until she purposefully like ran out. So she stopped taking it to see how it would affect her body. She had mold and Lyme, kind of a chronic type situation. And she said when she got off of it, all those symptoms came back, and then she got back on it, and it was helping again. So she knew, like, okay, this is something my body is asking for. So that 3 grams is about the therapeutic dose that people can start with. Take it before meals on an empty stomach, split it up AM and PM. And then for someone, if somebody has, say, stage 3, stage 4, or even just early stages of, say, like cancer, you can go up to, I think in clinical research, they went all the way up to 9 grams, which is a lot, but it's so safe. When they conducted these safety studies on, they do it on rats, right? Where any drug that's brought to market, they have to do these safety trials to see, okay, at what dose does it start to become a problem? Does it start having harmful effects in the body, whether that be whatever type of negative side effects or even death, right? Like toxic dose. And they got so high in these rat studies, basically, they had to essentially guess what the toxic dose would be, because they got up to a mega dose of what would have been the equivalent of 600 grams for a human. So these poor mice, they're just getting fed and fed and fed AHCC, and I think
they probably died of like too many capsules in the gut as opposed to the actual nutrient.
All that to say, it's very safe. Now, you don't need to be reckless with it or wasteful with it, and we all have different things going on in our body. I have heard from people that they'll start to take it. This is rare, but it has happened, where we talk about these toxicity buckets or these stress buckets that get really full. And when they start to overflow, that's when we start to feel really crappy in life. And sometimes medicinal mushrooms, reishi is another one that can do this, where it's potent. And so it's going into these stress buckets and kind of stirring things up, and it's getting things moving in you. And so sometimes that overflow of getting things moving and getting things out of you can sort of feel like crummy a little bit. It's not extreme, but someone could start taking it, and because it's potent in the body. Again, I said this is rare, but it has happened, where if somebody's toxicity buckets are really, really full, they can kind of feel this like detox effect, if that makes sense. But it is rare.
Yeah, and it makes sense. If you are giving your immune system more kind of tools to work with, it could recognize old viruses that have been lingering around for a while, or start to upregulate your detox pathways because your inflammation levels are lower. And those two are like opposites. If you're chronically inflamed, your detox pathways are going to be sluggish. So if you take the HCC and that lowers, you're naturally going to start detoxing better, which long term is ultimately good in terms of finding the root cause and fixing the underlying problems. But it can cause a temporary flare-up of symptoms, or skin breakouts might happen, but long term it should be more manageable and ultimately help those things.
Yep.
Perfect.
Exactly.
I will definitely be trying it for myself. I will find from your mentions of what to look for with the supplements and UK brands, I'm going to try it for myself. Having more complex issues with the mold and Lyme. So I mean, if it helps me at this stage, I'm already doing pretty good, but I will be the guinea pig. I've tried everything else, so I will try this and give it a go. And I will share my experience at one point or another, either on the podcast or on my Instagram, and I'll keep you posted as well. But if I find a good source, I'll maybe check with you first, and then I'll include it in the show notes for any listeners in the UK. But if you're in the US, then definitely grab the immune intel from Mimi. Before we finish up, I want to ask you a little bit more about the HPV, because we were chatting before we hit record again. I ask all my clients if they either currently have HPV or if they had it in the past, because I think it's an important sign, but a lot of women are very embarrassed about it sometimes, or it's a taboo subject, which I don't really see the reason why, and I'm sure that you agree. But what exactly is HPV? You've mentioned it a few times throughout this episode, and yeah, you mentioned how it could potentially be helped by the AHCC, but is there anything else that we can do to help clear it naturally?
So yeah, so when I came back from Japan, I had sat for 2 days in a presentation of all this different clinical research. And what really like stuck out to me after all of this research was the trials around HPV. I already mentioned them a little bit, but I was like, and this is how I first got introduced to AHCC, is talking about someone's experience with HPV and that it did help her, in fact, clear this virus. So I was always interested in it from the beginning, but I didn't know how common and how rampant it was for people. And so when I started looking into it, there's 14 million new cases of HPV, human papillomavirus, per year, diagnosed per year. There's over 80 million Americans, not just women, Americans dealing with it, and whether they know it or not. And I say, not just women, because there is currently no test for men. Like, even if a man goes in and gets a full like STD, like, screenshot of tests for different sexually transmitted diseases, there's no test for HPV. So even if he says, no, I'm clean, I don't have it, and a woman goes and gets a pap smear and says, okay, this pap smear is coming back, a little irregular, let's do an HPV test. And they find out, okay, there is HPV here, or it is positive. Now it's on the woman, right? And she could have gotten it from her first sexual partner, right? There is this stigma around HPV that I'm working so hard to kind of tear down, because women who are ashamed about something, whether that be HPV or whatever about their history, they don't want to talk about it. And that's a dangerous place when it's connected to your health, because if you don't want to talk about it, you're not necessarily asking people about, hey, have you ever had this? What did you do for it? Is there anything that you've heard that can help? Like, people are just so hush hush about it. And I understand, because there is this negative sort of connotation. And what I hear from women is, oh my gosh, I just found out I have HPV. I feel so gross. I feel so dirty. I feel like tainted. I feel like my body has betrayed me, is what they feel like. And that's a really kind of dangerous place to be, is in this place where my body has betrayed me. And your body is working so hard for you 24/7. And to be in that space where you're not fully being appreciative of your body only perpetuates disease, right? So with HPV, it's so common. And we really need more education around how to, yes, HPV can be cleared by the immune system naturally without any extra supplements. You could be positive for HPV and then go back the next year for a pap smear and it can be gone. That happens. But a lot of times women have it recurring year after year after year, whether it's 2 years or 5 years or 10 years, and they don't know what else they can do to get rid of this thing. Maybe they're trying to get pregnant, or maybe they don't even feel like they can date, or maybe they're just like scared to tell their partner, or whatever it is. AHCC can be a tool to help. Again, we're informing, we're educating the immune system. It's increasing those immune cells to really go in and do what they're supposed to do, to recognize, okay, this is not self, let's deal with this properly. And so that's ultimately what it's doing for something like HPV. And I forgot you had a few questions in there regarding HPV.
Yeah, I was just saying treatment wise, and I think the fear as well with HPV is that it can turn into cervical cancer down the line. I don't know if you have any statistics, but how likely is that to happen? And even with the HPV vaccine that they have, what are your thoughts on that, or what have you seen to happen?
Yeah, so the reason why it's scary for women is they hear HPV and they also know that there is a link from certain strains of HPV to cervical cancer. And I think in America, like something like 260,000 women die of cervical cancer every year, which is far too many when there is this beautiful tool that can hopefully help, decrease that likelihood. But cervical cancer it usually takes a very long time to develop. So it's not like as soon as a 26-year-old woman gets a diagnosed with HPV, maybe it's type 16 or 18, that is usually linked to cervical cancer. It doesn't mean that, oh, next year I'm going to have cervical cancer. It takes a long time. Usually women who are diagnosed are in their 40s or 50s or later. So it is a very slow acting virus, which is great for us in trying to heal that area of the body. So I don't want women to think like, oh my gosh, I didn't know it was linked to cervical cancer. Do I have cancer? Like, don't rush into that sort of mentality. Think of it like a cold on your cervix. Like that's how common it is. And it's something like 80% of sexually active individuals will contract HPV at some point in their life, meaning whether they know it or not, it's coming into their body, and we can't feel our immune system like letting go or getting rid of a virus, but that's what it's doing. So upwards of 80%. So I don't want any woman listening to this to feel like they're alone. You are absolutely not alone. And then as far as treatment, I already mentioned, obviously AHCC is a great tool, but also, again, looking at lifestyle, looking at what am I putting in my body as food? Am I gifting it natural, organic, whole foods to assimilate and to use the nutrients and to really build my tissues and give my body the best possible outcome for nutrients and healing and everything like that? Or am I giving it processed sugar and canola and vegetable oil and all of these things? So that's really important to look at too. What are you gifting your body? It's not just supplements, it's not just medications, it's food. That's our ultimate form of medicine, because we're doing it, at least 3 times a day, every day. And then the other piece would be really, we've mentioned it a couple times on here, but the mindset piece of allowing your body to feel safe to heal. A lot of women who come to me and drop into my DMs are like, oh my gosh, I'm freaking out. I don't know what to do. I'm desperate. I feel like I'm going to die. Like all of these very extreme, charged, intense emotions for the body to feel. Maybe they're laying awake at night and they don't know what to do. They don't know where to start. That's a very scary place to be. And so one thing that I recommend for women, and I share about this in my course that's called Clear, it talks about, these 3 pillars of really healing and addressing the body as a whole system, not just AHCC education, but also we're looking at food as medicine, nutritional guidance, what foods to absolutely avoid at all costs, and what foods to embrace. And then that 3rd pillar is mindset for healing. So are you getting into stillness every day and visually like picturing this virus being out of your body? How are you like loving and taking care of your body and embracing this body, this meat suit that is working so hard for you nonstop every day? Sometimes it just doesn't have the right tools. And that's where we can gift our body the right tools in combination with the mindset piece to really get to a place where your body feels safe and ready to release, to let go of this virus and to deal with it properly.
I think it's amazing that you've created this resource, and there's going to be hundreds, thousands of women, hopefully, that go through the course and find relief from this. And even just you talking today about HPV and dismissing the kind of the taboo nature of it and just explaining it in simple terms, I really appreciate it, and all of the wisdom that you shared also on AHCC today. I'm so excited to try it for myself. But before I let you go, Mimi, there's a few questions that I have for you personally. So very quick fire. What's something that you do daily to stay in hormonal harmony? So we've covered the AHCC. I'm sure that's helping your hormones and your immune system and all of that. Is there anything else that you love to do?
Yes, I drink reishi king coffee. So it's reishi spores mixed with organic coffee. And that's my coffee every day. I will say, oh, you do great. Bonus to that is I need sunlight every day, and just that it sort of induces this calm state, whether it's on the beach or, just in a walk in the neighborhood, is like being present, not having anything in my ears, just listening to the sounds of the birds, the wind, just nature in general, maybe the ocean waves, like just being in your body, feeling the sun on your skin. It's like a whole stack of benefits in one thing.
It's like an immediate reset and just calms your nervous system right down.
Yep.
What's your go-to breakfast if you're a breakfast person?
Yes, I am. So my breakfast is usually some combination of protein. I use Keon and Organifi protein, 2 different companies, and then oats. Usually I'm eating breakfast after I've lifted weights and my body's in a state where it wants to grab onto some protein and some carbs, and so usually it's oats, protein, either soy or almond milk, and some fruit in there, and I just mix it up, maybe some chia seeds, and it's like this almost like gelatinous type of delicious chocolate or vanilla like pudding.
Nice. And final question is, where can people find more from you online? So your website and social media, and also your podcast.
Yeah. So online, I hang out on Instagram a lot. My handle is Mimi_the_medicine, and medicine is no E on the end. And then my website is getmimifit.com. You can find, Immune Intel AHCC and some of the other things that we offer. And then also the course Clear. In the drop-down menu, you'll see its own tab for if you want to learn more about that course. And then, the Medicin Podcast is my pride and joy, my baby, and episodes drop every Monday. It's spelled MEDICIN, and we focus on expansion for body, mind, and relationships. And I didn't share this before when I was telling you my kind of backstory, but the man that I divorced 3 years later, after we both went through our rock bottom and clawed our way out through this Grand Canyon of, personal development, we actually organically got back together, and we were these new beings. And he's in the other room now. So I'm currently back with my ex-husband. We've been together for almost 3 years now, and this part 2, as we call it. So part of the medicine is also diving into relationship and conscious relationship and what that looks like to build a better partnership with your person.
Love that. Such a beautiful ending to the podcast. And again, thank you so much for joining me today and educating on these 2 important subjects. And I love connecting with you. And thank you so much again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was fun.